well timed with the end of the song there. All right, we should be going live here. Gonna just take a moment to give everybody a chance to settle in here. Gonna verify that we are in fact live. It does look like we are, but I'm gonna double check that real quick here. And we'll be getting started here in just a minute. And yes, it does look like we're live. Excellent. Good. Well timed with the end of the song.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
All right. All right, we're good. Looks like we are live and ready to go. Welcome, everybody, to our October meeting of the SPARCC Google User Group. This is still experimental at the moment, so this could explode at any moment. This is just a experimental thing we're doing here. This is our second month having our SPARCC Google User Group. The first month we met during the daytime, and we're experimenting with an evening session here tonight. So this is 4 o'clock after school session. We're going to see how that goes. We had a lot of people request that we do a session in the evening rather than one in the daytime, so we wanted to try both of them out to see the pros and cons. In the end, we just want to do what's best for everybody. I don't know what that will be in the end. Sometimes that's hard to arrive on. But what we're doing is our monthly meeting where we're trying to talk about the latest things in Google Apps, talk about your questions, try to share neat ideas, best practices, those sort of things. And so just to kind of get things started off, I'm going to share my screen real quick to bring up our agenda to make sure that everybody is aware that we have the shared agenda on the event page so that you can get into there. I'll show you real quick what our plan is here for today. And then we'll get into some introductions shortly after that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And you should be seeing, there we go. You should be seeing my my screen now with the agenda for today. And like I mentioned, this is the SPARCC Google User Groups, SPARCC being the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium. So we are serving schools in the Stark and Portage counties in Northeast Ohio, but really this is open to anybody. I see we've got a few people watching tonight from other parts of Ohio, and that is perfectly fine. We're excited to have folks from outside of our area as well. The agenda is linked in on our community page or on the event for this, so you can get to the agenda through there. You should also be able to get to it through our SPARCC Google resource site as well, and I'm going to start off by mentioning a few of those links right away to make sure everybody has those. So if I scroll down just a little bit here, I'm actually going to skip the introductions for just a second. We'll come right back to those. I'm going to start with our important links because I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. I don't want anybody getting left behind on this. So to get to this agenda that we have here for today, you could get to there either from our SPARCC user group community site, which is tiny.cc/sparc-google-group. That's one way to get there. So again, that's tiny.cc/sparc-google-group. If I give a click on that and open that up, you'll see that takes you out to our SPARCC Google User Group site. And right on that site, you will see a link to our event for today. And if we give a click on the event, that's where you'll see, hey, there we are. There's our event going there. And if you go into there, you'll see in the comments below there, I do have a link to our shared agenda. I believe I also put that in, yes I did, I also put that in the description over here on the side. So you can get to the agenda through our user group site. You can also, I believe, get to it through our Google resource site, and that's just google.apps.sparc.org. If I give a click on that and open that up, this is our SPARCC Google resource site. And we've got lots of things here, help guides, all sorts of things. Well, under our PD schedule, which hopefully we'll be filling that out soon with upcoming PD opportunities, you'll see a link to our user group meetings here as well. And I believe, yes, there is also the link to the editable agenda. So through any of those methods, hopefully you can get to our agenda here. There are lots of other helpful links here, including the Ohio Google Educator Group, and we may have some people with us tonight that are actually from, again, outside of SPARCC. Maybe you came from the Ohio GEG, Ohio Google Educator Group, and we've got a link into that website. Another link that I want to draw your attention to is a link that's in response to a request from our last session, and that is a sign-in form so that you can get credit for attending these meetings. And so what I'm going to do each time, we're going to try this anyway, is I'm going to put in our agenda a link to a real simple Google form. It's just GUG for Google User Group, so tiny.cc/GUG-sign-in, GUG standing for Google User Group. And if you go to that, it should open up for you a Google form where you can enter your name, your email address, the school district you're from, choose the date of the meeting you've attended, and then let us know how you attended, whether it was live at SPARCC or at Ravenna, or if you viewed online. And if you submit that, I'll send out certificates of attendance to people, and we'll just use this as our way of keeping track of our attendance for these. So I would encourage you to do that. And you notice I did pick a appropriate picture for the top of the form. This is, for those of you that can't see us, this is exactly what we all look like. We're all sitting around here drinking beverages and sitting on couches and having a really nice time. So for those that can't see us, that is a very accurate picture of us. So I would encourage everybody to fill out that form. That'll help us keep track of who attended and make sure we get you your certificates of attendance as well. All right, so that's the gist about our links. I'm going to scroll back up for just a second and go back to the introductions. And I'm going to unshare my screen for just a second so that I can actually say howdy again to everybody. My name is Eric. Eric Curts. I'm a technology integration specialist for SPARCC. And I work with Anthony Luscre, who is at our other site tonight. Anthony is up at Ravenna, and he's been having some difficulty with his video there, so we're not getting a stream from him. But I would encourage Anthony to please put in the any questions or comments or anything that anybody has. Please throw those on the event page. I'm going to do my best to take a look there, or in the shared agenda. That'd be fine too. Anthony can type in questions or comments that he gets from the folks up north, and we'll be sure to keep an eye out for those. But Anthony and I are technology integration folks for SPARCC. Not to put folks on the spot, but we do have a couple of guests with us. I won't turn the camera around. I'll just let you introduce yourselves. Oh, it looks like Anthony might be trying to join us here. Oh, well, we'll keep an eye and see if he can jump in later. Okay, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Deborah Shaw from the Stark County ESC Homeschool Consultant.
All right, and?
Jennifer Maley, Marlington Middle School.
Excellent. So we've got Deb and Jennifer with us here at the SPARCC location, and it looks like we've got folks that are, oops, looks like Anthony is still trying to call in here, but, oh, hang on a second. Nope. Sorry, Anthony. Let me re-invite you to this one. I think he's trying to get back in here. I apologize, guys. I'm going to try to re-invite Anthony back into this Hangout, see if he can get in. While I'm doing that, we're also joined in person, well, I guess live on air in person by Brian Ditfeld. And so, Brian, I'm going to go ahead and let me get back to putting you up on the screen here because I'm afraid people here aren't going to be able to see you. So, Brian, take a moment and introduce yourself to everybody here.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Brian Ditfeld. I'm the Technology Director for Indian Valley Local Schools, and also co-leader of the GEG Ohio group and an authorized Google Education trainer.
Excellent. And it looks like Anthony is getting in. But Brian, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Brian is a good friend of mine for many years here and very active in the Google community, does lots and lots of trainings. I run into Brian. We've crossed paths at pretty much all the Google events, and I know we'll be seeing each other this weekend, correct? You'll be at the Chromebook Institute being held at Hoover High School. And then, Anthony, you've got video. So, hey, what's up, Anthony? What's happening?
I'm not sure if we have audio, though. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Well, thanks to Maureen's laptop, we're able to get in because my laptop decided it doesn't like you anymore. I'm not sure why.
I don't know. I didn't do anything to your laptop. I promise I did not do it in any way. So.
Great picture from you.
I'm sorry?
The picture looks great from you.
Picture's good. Excellent. I'm glad you've got good video there then.
I'll make the picture better on this side.
All right. And then, Anthony, we did a quick introduction on our end. Who are you joined by tonight there?
I'm Maureen Haska from Streetsboro. So.
Excellent. Well, good to have you guys. And then I know we've got folks watching online as well. So for those that are out there viewing or for those that view this later on, we do record these. We'll be posting them on our SPARCC Google User Group site. Thank you for being with us. All right, well, let me go ahead now. I'm going to switch back over to our agenda, and Anthony and Brian, interrupt me at any point. Maureen, you do the same. Folks here, please do the same as well. We want this to be as much of a community as possible, so stop anybody at any point and say whatever you need to. I'm going to go ahead and pop back over to the agenda here, and let me scroll down here a little bit. And I just wanted to start with a quick summary of something we chatted about last time in our meeting, which was trying to decide what the structure of this group would be like. And like I said, this is experimental. We're still figuring it out. We want to figure out what makes the most sense for everybody. And so a couple of quick things to mention on the structure is we have not nailed down for sure what dates and times we're going to go with. Originally, we thought we would do this during the school day from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. on the third Fridays of the month. And that worked really well for some folks, but we heard a lot of people say, that's a really tough time. Can we try an after-school one? So that is what we're doing today, as we're trying an after-school session to see how that works. We're basically just going to be looking for feedback from folks and try to decide in the end what ends up being the best option for everybody. We do hold this at 2 locations. We hold it here at SPARCC. We also hold a meeting up north in Orange County.
Where he goes.
Sorry?
We keep losing your voice.
Oh, you keep losing my voice.
Yes.
I'm sorry. That's not good. Hopefully it's coming through okay. Brian, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I'm hearing you fine.
Excellent. Okay, very good. So we do hold it physically at 2 locations, at SPARCC in Stark County, and then at a location up in Portage. We've got 2 different spots we jump between there. And then, of course, if anybody else would like to have to host it, that's fine. We'd be glad to come to a district as well. But for now, that's the plan, to have 2 locations so it's easy for people to get to it without having to drive so far. We will broadcast these sessions on air, so they'll be live that people can watch or connect remotely. We'll also record them so they can view them later. And then as far as what we're going to do at the meetings, we kind of chatted about this last time. Chances are we'll probably do things like talk about what the latest news is with Google Apps. Each month there's always something new that Google has released, and so we want to make sure we keep everybody up to date on that. Talk about upcoming events, maybe do some demos, tutorials, share examples how Google's being used in school, any questions people have. And maybe we talked about this last time, maybe pick a theme for each meeting. Maybe we want to have some of this stuff always be there, but then pick, a topic, So, maybe it's, Google Classroom one time, or maybe it's using Google in mathematics one time, or maybe it's whatever the case might be. So I'm just going to pause there for a moment and see folks here at SPARCC, up at Ravenna, people online, anybody have any feedback on the direction we're going with the structure of our user group meetings? I'm hearing a sounds good from this end.
Sounds good here.
So one of the topics that I'd like to see brought in has to do with purchasing apps with POs. We found that app purchasing was a little bit more challenging in the district. So I'm interested to know what other people are doing, as well as you.
We have a little hard time hearing you there, Maureen.
Okay. I'm interested in learning a little bit more about purchasing apps with POs through Google and Google Play. So we purchased our first apps last week, and it was a real challenge. And then I came across some other software. The problem is I can't keep finding. I have to go hit miss to find the software I'm looking for. Be able to make see and read more about making the purchases with POs.
Okay. Yeah.
I can actually help you with that.
Yeah, Brian does know a lot about that. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so with the POs, is it just like one PO you have for like a flat balance?
At the moment, that's been our greatest challenge in the district, is buying any kind of app, because they won't let us use gift cards, or they don't want us to use gift cards. The district has no credit card. So right now it's been a serious challenge. So we can set it up. I mean, we could go for one PO, I could go for a couple POs, whatever's going to work.
Okay, because if you're using Google Play for Education, you can submit purchase orders which go into your account. Let me actually go over to one of my screens here, and I'll share it real quick.
You're giving me exactly what I was looking for.
We aim to please. How about that?
See, let me go ahead and share my screen here real quick.
While Brian's bringing that up, Maureen, are you specifically looking at purchasing apps for Chrome OS or Android devices, or both?
Both.
Okay.
Okay, so on the Android one, can you see my screen now?
Looks good.
Okay. So once you submit the PO and it gets processed, being logged in, you'll actually have a section over here for purchase orders. And being the admin of the domain, and from here you can actually authorize who is able to purchase, like just as blanket across the board, or you can have separate POs where you can actually click delegate over here to the right, and you can set up specific people to allow them to do purchases. So when you do that, one thing to keep in mind, which is why I asked if you do multiple POs or just one, the downfall to this is whoever you delegate to the PO has full control of the whole balance of the PO. So if you don't want your teachers to have like that whole balance to spend with, you're going to want to break that PO up when you submit it, and then just delegate those POs to the specific teacher. But once that's been delegated, all they have to do is actually go to an app that they want to purchase, and I'll show it to you here real quick. So let's just say, for the sake of time, they wanted to do Book Creator. So they can actually click the $249 buy, which then from there they can choose the quantity that they want, and then they can choose which PO they have access to. Or, again, if you have Google Wallet set up with them, which you probably wouldn't for teachers, you can actually do a credit card, or if you did have a gift card, you could do it that way. But again, it sounds like you really want to stick with the POs. So as long as those POs are processed, they can just select that specific PO, hit continue, which I'm not going to do, and it would actually, which then it will actually purchase the content. Then once it's purchased, the teacher or whoever's buying the apps come over here to manage content. And then from here, you can actually assign who gets it. So then you can actually click the install and put it on to specific people, or you can even uninstall it to then reassign. Because that's one nice thing with the Google Play for Education, is you can reassign the apps very easily to other accounts within your domain.
So now my ignorance may be apparent here. Can I put these on Chromebooks and put them on Android devices, or only on Chromebooks that are run through our district?
What I just showed you would be specifically Android apps. I mean, Android tablets within your district. For the Chrome apps, if there's any that involve payment, you would need to do it through that specific vendor. But if you have Google Play EDU enabled for the teacher, they can easily send Chrome apps to their Chromebooks. And where you do that at, and same goes with your Android apps, is over here with teacher access on the left-hand side.
Okay.
You actually got to enroll each one of your teachers. So like you can see here, I have all my teachers in my district access, but you can simply do that by individual emails, or if all your teachers are in a group, you can just put that group address in here. So for mine, I just did IB_teachers, which was my distribution group, hit add, and it automatically added all my teachers. So once the teacher is enrolled into Google Play, now they have access to go into the store and do what they need to do, which for a Chrome app is no different. They can just click over on Chrome apps, and I like this because now I no longer get help desk tickets asking for me to put apps on the Chromebooks, because now they can do it themselves. And what's nice about the Google Play for EDU store is that it's all broken up by subject area. And then on top of that, because this is what the teachers really like too, is that as it's loading here, get elevator music playing. There we go. So then from here they can choose what grade level they're specifically looking for. And once they choose a grade level, it'll also bring up Common Core standards, where they can look for a specific Common Core standard to find an app. They can really drill down for an app they need to cover a particular topic for the day.
And I think, Brian, would you say that typically Chrome web apps, for the most part, tend to be free? There are some paid web apps, but the vast majority, 99% plus of them, are free, whereas the Android apps tend to have a cost associated with them, usually like a 99-cent type app or a couple bucks type of an app. Would you find that to be true?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've not paid for a Chrome app yet, and we're even finding on the Android side that we're actually kind of surprised at how much are actually free. I mean, there's definitely one thing that's nice is that they have light versions of a lot of the paid stuff, where they're able to try that first, and then if they like it, then we'll look at the full version. But we have found a decent amount of free stuff with Android also, but Chrome definitely, practically everything out there except for, if you want the full versions of like WeVideo, stuff like that, you have some slight subscriptions, but yeah.
So if they're going to purchase an app directly from the vendor, because we have a few teachers who have met with vendors and have actually gotten reduced prices on especially e-apps, and so if you're going to purchase it directly from the vendor, though, you're probably going to need a credit card or a gift card.
That would really be on a vendor by vendor basis. I'm not sure what like WeVideo would do, for instance, but a number of them would be most likely credit card. When we're talking Chrome app. But again, if any of them are really dealing with education, I'm sure they got some way to take a PO. But again, I can't say, I can't speak for every vendor. But I do know for Chrome apps, if you got to pay for anything, that is more at the vendor level than the app store, whereas the Android apps or the books, that's all paid for through the EDU app store. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. But like I said, my recommendation is just break the PO up, because one feature I wish it would have would be to delegate like allowances from a PO. Because, I mean, I don't necessarily want to write 30 requisitions, and my treasurer doesn't really want to write 30 separate POs, just to have it broken up for teachers. But I would say, though, for at least right now, until that feature would possibly become available, look to break up your POs if you want to allow teachers to do purchasing themselves. So.
Thank you.
Yep. That's fantastic, Brian. And just as a quick overview then of that for folks, what we're basically talking about, though, all hinges upon purchasing the management license to go along with your devices, because to be able to manage Chromebooks and Android tablets, it's a $30 license cost one time, regardless of whether it's a tablet or a Chromebook. Correct?
Correct.
And that's the beauty of it, is the management. For schools to be able to have these tools to very, very easily push out web apps to Chromebooks, push out mobile apps to Android tablets, and now, like you just showed, to be able to authorize teachers to be able to have access to that, and then to be able to give them permission to be able to access a PO. Google really did, a couple years ago when they were figuring out this whole Play for Education store, they really did step back and say, okay, let's just back up and say, what are the pain points? Where are the areas where managing devices is difficult? And they really, really went out of their way to figure out how can we make this simple, from provisioning the devices, taking tablets and bumping one against the other to set it up, all of these really great things, to working with POs, to having things organized by subject and grade and Common Core standard. They've really done a nice job with that. So are you going to be presenting on some of that this weekend, Brian?
Yeah, actually one of my sessions is with the tablets with Google Play for Education on Sunday.
Excellent, fantastic. Well, we'll talk about that in just a minute here about upcoming events. That's the Chromebook Institute this Saturday and Sunday at Hoover High School in North Canton, Ohio. I'll be there. I know Brian will be there. Several other folks. So look forward to that. Very good. Well, Brian, thanks for. Well, you had the answer. You were ready, man. That's awesome.
No problem.
That was great. All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again here so we can pull the agenda back up. So basically, that's what we chatted about a bit last time, was the structure for the meetings. I think we're going to still follow along pretty much those ideas. We might look at trying to do a theme per meeting that we can really drill down into a little bit deeper. But one of the before I move on, any other comments from anybody else on the structure of the meetings? Yeah, I don't want to leave anybody out. All right, excellent. Well, what I'm going to move on to is something that we definitely will include at each of our meetings, which is what's new in Google. Google is a moving target. They are always releasing new things, new features, new tools all the time. And so what we try to do is grab some of the more interesting ones. I mean, there's a lot more that I could have put on this list, but some of the stuff, it's not as applicable in an education setting. So Anthony and I look through each month as things come out and try to add them to a list of some of the more interesting things that have happened within the last month. And so I do go from the last meeting to this meeting. That's why you got some September and some October things in there. And we won't go into great detail on all of these, but I did want to make sure that we at least mentioned them so everybody was aware of some of these. And we can pause after each one of these to kind of discuss and decide, anything that you would like to share about these. So I'm just going to head down the list. First thing I just think is hysterical. Adobe brings Photoshop to the Chromebook. So let me open this up real quick here. Actually, I think let me grab the other link. The other link is a little bit more exciting than that one, I think, but that's okay. So yes, back on September 29th, Adobe announced that they are bringing Photoshop to Chromebooks. And the reason why I say this is hysterical, it just tickles me, it's so funny, is that as we've rolled out Chromebooks more and more and more and more, every now and then you totally understandably, you get some folks that are like, well, but you can't do that on a Chromebook. Well, you can't do that on a Chromebook. And little by little by little, it turns out that those things are now able to be done. And the thing that makes me laugh is that Photoshop is usually the go-to. That's typically what people will say. Yeah, Chromebooks are great, but you can't do Photoshop on a Chromebook. So you're always going to have these other devices you need to have. And then out of nowhere, Adobe says, oh yeah, you can now. So people who subscribe to Adobe's Creative Cloud service, they will now be able to, or soon, I don't know if it's happened yet, anybody that's done this, I would love to hear how well it worked, but they've announced that starting with Photoshop, they will now stream the app to Chromebooks, the full app, to allow people to be able to do Photoshop editing right on their Chromebooks. And the way they indicated it was they were basically starting with Photoshop, so who knows what else they might end up adding in there from that Creative Cloud suite. But that's just so awesome. It's one more of the very, very common things that people say, well, you're always going to have a PC, or you're always going to have a Mac because Chromebooks can't do everything. Exciting to see them moving into this area. Brian, Anthony, anybody have any reactions to that? Did that surprise you when that came out?
Eric, I think it's also. I think the cloud also includes Darkroom. I think it's the name of the other program. So the cloud subscription will include more than just Photoshop. It appears.
Anthony, you're breaking up a little bit there, but you were saying you believe it includes other things. I do know they said that in this one article that initially they said they're going to start with a streaming version of Photoshop, but that makes it sound like if they're saying initially that's what they're starting with, that they may, eventually include other items in there because I imagine that the Adobe Suite probably is going to include. I don't know what all's in the cloud one, but it could be, design and fireworks and Illustrator and other things like that.
I think right now the only thing that's in there is Darkroom. I think that's the name of it. They're photo enhancing software.
All right. But that was really exciting to see that Chromebooks are still getting a lot of love, and it's now starting to include some really high-end softwares. So that was cool. Now the next thing really got met with a lot of excitement, and that was more updates to Google Forms. And I think we were surprised by this because we had just gotten updates like a few weeks before. They added the ability to pick custom themes, and there were some other things like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, and we thought, hey, Forms got some great updates, and then they turn right around and like 2 weeks later give us a whole new list of updates. And so what I want to do is I'm going to open up a form and show you what it is they've added, and I'd love to hear from anybody that has been using Google Forms since these updates have come out as to what this has meant to you. So here's just a sample quiz that I used from an InfoHio training a while back. But the new things that they've added, first of all, up in the top setting where you've got your form settings, let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit so you guys can see this a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. That'll make it easier for you to see. We're used to the first couple of items in the settings where you require somebody to be logged into your domain and collect their username and that kind of stuff. But what's new is what's been added below there, and that is the option to limit the people to only one response per person. Now, you have to check the first box that they're using their school-provided account, or else you can't check this, because the only way it can figure out if you have actually taken the quiz is if it can check into the spreadsheet to see if your username, if your email address is in there. So by requiring that they're logged into their school account and saying they can only submit one response, then a student can't take a quiz twice, or somebody can't fill out a survey 2 times. So that is a new option which has been asked for a long time. People always said, well, how do you stop them from taking it more than once? And we'd always say, well, you can't. You got to open up the spreadsheet, look for duplicates, kick out the old one that they submitted. Well, not anymore. Now, if they try to submit another one, it says, sorry, you've already submitted that. The other option that got added at the top was the ability to shuffle the question order. For a while, you've had the ability to shuffle your answers. So like if I came into this question on the science question, I could come into this multiple choice question, and under my advanced settings, I could choose shuffle option order. That we've had for a while, to be able to mix up the answers to a specific question. What we hadn't had was the ability to actually shuffle the questions around. Now, this is definitely a nice thing. People have asked for this for a long time. I'm sure the reason being, well, we don't want kids cheating off each other, and so if the questions are randomized, that's great. I will, though, warn you about one thing with this. When it shuffles the questions, it does not see pictures and videos as connected to a question. Okay, and if you've ever put a picture into a form or a video into a form, you know how that works. Like if I put this picture of the water lilies painting in here, you'll see that the picture of the water lilies painting, that's its own separate thing. It's its own entity. I can drag it, move it around in the form. And the question about it, that's its own separate entity. That's not actually physically connected to the picture. I could put the picture below it. I could put the picture above it. Well, there's where it kind of comes around and bites you in the butt. If you say, I want to shuffle my questions, and if you've used pictures and videos, please be aware it will shuffle them as well. And so the picture may not wind up anywhere near the question it's supposed to go with. So use that if you're not including media in with your form. If you just have regular questions that are just text questions and multiple choice and things like that without pictures or videos, that's a great way to help combat possible cheating, but it will be very confusing if you had pictures and videos in there. And then the last thing that, well, there's probably a couple other little things, but the last big thing that was new in the forms update was when you go to send the form out to your kids or whomever you're sending it to, and you go up and click on Send Form, you've always been able to put in their email addresses to send it to them via email. You've always been able to come up here to the top to copy this crazy long, I don't scroll over, this really, really, really long link up here. Well, now they've added in the option here to generate a short URL for you. Now, I like doing that. A lot of times I would have just gone up, maybe copied this link and gone to something like tiny.cc. That's what I use a lot, but there's bit.ly and tinyurl and all of that. Well, now if you don't want to do that, you can just click short URL and it will go ahead and shorten that up for you. And so you can get a nice shorter web link if you want to give that out for people to complete your survey. So that's now built.
Drop a couple packets for video too this time.
Oh. Anybody tried these out yet, these new changes? If not, definitely encourage you to do so. Really, really neat stuff there. All right. Let me close out of that form, and we'll get back. Ooh, now I'm really zoomed in. There we go. That's better. Okay. Next up, now this one was just awesome. On September 30th, we were told, guess what? You now have no limit. Let me open this article up for you here. For a long time, Google has had a very generous amount of storage space of 30 gigabytes for education users, for your Drive, for your Gmail, for your photos. Now, if you did a Google Doc or a Google slideshow, that never counted against your quota. So you could have 1 million Google documents. But if you wanted to upload a PDF, or if you wanted to upload, you know, an MP3 or a video or a Word document and not convert it, those things counted against your storage. Well, they announced at the end of September here that for education, there is now unlimited storage. So no limit whatsoever, as much as you want to put in your Drive, as many emails as you want to have, as many images as you want to put in your Google Plus photo albums, no limit whatsoever. And on top of that, individual files can be up to 5 terabytes in size for a single file. That's just massive. So that is incredibly exciting for all of us that worry about running out of space, or for school districts that are really wanting to move away from their own network storage and saying, oh, we've got to have all these servers on site and we've got to back all this stuff up. Wouldn't it be great if we could just store everything in our Google Drive? Well, now with unlimited storage, that is a much greater reality. And so schools can really consider, do we really need to have as much local storage and network storage locally in our building as we used to? Then I'm sorry, go ahead.
Never mind. We're playing around with something else.
Oh, no, you're fine. And then on top of that, Google Vault was announced that it would now become free for schools. Google Vault is a service that's been around for several years. It is Google's tool to be able to archive and then retrieve email on an enterprise level. So if unfortunately something happens at a school and a lawyer comes and says, hey, we have a public records request. We need all the emails that were sent from, you know, this teacher to this person, or from the superintendent to this person between this date and that date. Well, as schools, we have to be able to provide that information. And so schools have to choose some tool to be able to archive all of their email. It is the law. We have to do that. And Vault was one of the choices. There are several of them out there, but Vault was one of the choices. It was $10 per year per staff and free for students. And so it wasn't terribly expensive, but still, yeah, I mean, that would add up. I mean, that could add up pretty quick for, you know, a good-sized school. Well, Google announced that Vault, as of sometime near the end of the year, will become free. And so there'll be no charge whatsoever for schools to be able to have access to Google Vault, to do all of their public records requests, to pull up all of the old emails. Just phenomenal. What a great, great thing they've done for schools with that, because that was one of the only things that possibly could cost money when it came to Google Apps, was the archiving, and now even that has been taken care of. Anthony, Brian, other folks, reactions to any of that stuff?
I like the big terabyte file size. That impresses me.
So, Anthony, you're excited about the fact that you can store really large individual files.
Yes.
Excellent, 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 excellent.
No, I'm excited with the that announcement because, like you already mentioned, it really questions the need for file servers, or at least having as big a file servers as some of us run now. I mean, with having that unlimited storage, and with Google Vault, it's backing up your Google Drive, where you can go back 20 days. The restore files, and it's all free now. I mean, it really starts to become a no-brainer when it comes to network drives and stuff, to start looking at that as an alternative option. And I've used the backup feature a few times, the restore, and for Google Drive, and it's pretty slick. I mean, it doesn't let you do individual files. I mean, it just lets you restore anything from a specific day. But it's kind of come in handy, because there's been a couple times where we've had a student say, a file's magically disappeared for an assignment that's due, and now I can actually go back and restore it. And it's like, by the looks here, either A, you didn't do it because it didn't actually restore back, or B, you weren't really that far into it to begin with. So it's a nice feature to have.
Excellent. And for those of us that never delete anything, this is very nice to know now that if we never delete our email and clean out our drive, now we don't have to. So that's great. All right, let's keep heading down the list here of new things in the last month. The next thing down, we'll just mention this real quick. Installable triggers. You may say, Eric, that sounds like a really boring topic. Installable triggers, what is that? Well, let me just tell you the impact it's going to have for you. Basically, a couple months ago, Google switched from scripts to add-ons. It used to be that if you wanted to use a tool like Autocrat or Flubaroo or Doctopus, any of these scripts that would do mail merge or quiz grading or things like that, they were installed as a script into Google Sheets. Well, they switched from scripts to add-ons several months ago, and in the process, most things transitioned well, but triggers did not. And what that means is you had to manually run all these add-ons. You had to make them run. You couldn't tell them to run on a condition like, hey, if somebody submits a new form, automatically run Doctopus or Autocrat or whatever and generate this document as a result. And so I remember at our meeting last month, one of our attendees had mentioned that being a frustration and needing to hold on to some old versions of Google Sheets so they could still use the old scripts. Well, we were told at the start of October here that installable triggers are now available for add-ons. And I noticed that at least Autocrat has already been updated to include that now. There's now a checkbox in there to run Autocrat upon form submission. So that's exciting. So that means, hopefully Flubaroo may get that feature in there, so when a student takes a quiz, maybe it could just grade them automatically rather than me having to go in and run the grading for them. We'll see, but that just gives a lot more options for people who are designing these awesome add-ons to give us triggers that will run when somebody submits things. I think they also added the triggers that run based upon like time of day or how many days it's been since the last time it ran. So some neat options there. Brian, Anthony, anybody else have any feedback on the trigger option that we have now?
I was wondering if anyone has found a add-on or tool to take a form entry and automatically insert a event on a calendar.
take a form entry and create a calendar event based upon the form entry. I'm not aware, but I can't imagine there's not. I would think somebody's got to have come up with something like that, I would think.
Well, the triggers, I think it might make it more likely that they would do it.
Yeah.
With the triggers part will
Okay.
result in that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of one at the moment. But yeah, I think you're thinking the right direction there, Anthony, that if we've got triggers now, that would make sense. Submit a form, it triggers, automatically puts something onto a Google Calendar. All right, next up, just a little bit of love for Google Slides. You now can do some image adjustment. I'll grab a slideshow I've got here. And so here you see we've got this picture of these kids working on their computers. You can now come in, give a click on an image, and go to Image Options up in your toolbar, and it gives you all of these different options down here, such as recoloring the image. So if I wanted to, I could say, let's make this kind of red. I'll go back to no recolor. We can also adjust the brightness, so we can make it brighter. We can also adjust the contrast, higher or lower contrast. We can also adjust the transparency. Now, I'm going to move the picture for a second just so this makes more sense. I'll put it on top of this. If I were to come in here and start adjusting the transparency, as I do so, the image, will start to become see-through. And so this would give you more options for like a watermark or something that you want to, again, be able to see through to see the things in the background there. I'll undo that. But that is great. So we now have a few more image editing options than we had before in Google Slides. And again, interrupt me at any point if anybody has any comments or questions on any of those. Next up, I'm not going to really do anything with this, but I guess spell checking has been improved in Google Sheets. So for those of you that are using Google Sheets a lot, you're probably making Anthony very happy. He loves Sheets. Better spell checking.
He can't spell.
What's that?
And he cannot spell either. So he loves
If
Sheets.
you can't spell. If you love Sheets and you can't spell, you'll love that. All right. How about something a little bit more fun? The next thing, on October 9th, we were told that Google Plus has now added an option for polls. So I have created a poll. Let me go ahead and pull this up on the screen here. On our community site for the SPARCC Google User Group, I have added a poll to show you how this feature works. So I would encourage everybody to go and vote on this poll right now. If you're not sure, well, Eric, how do I get to the community site again? Just as a reminder, the short URL for the community site is tiny.cc/sparc-google-group. So tiny.cc/sparc-google-group. That takes you out to our community site, and that's where you can add questions, share resources, connect with all the other folks in the SPARCC Google User Group. And what you'll see on there is they have this new feature which is called polling. You can add a poll. In the past, if I were to add a new thing to the community, I could add text, photos, links, videos, events. Now I can add a poll. And basically the way it works is, I'll show you, like I won't really create a new one, but I'll show you the idea. If I clicked on that I wanted to add a new poll, what it does is you type in your question, and then you type in your choices down below. And you can add more choices, but I think it tops out at 5. That's all I was able to add. So if you keep clicking that, you can add up to 5 different choices. You can throw a picture in there as well. And so you can create a poll. And for mine, I chose, since it's Halloween time, went with something a little bit Halloween themed. Google tends to, from time to time, kill off their products. We're always very, very sad about that when that happens. Probably the most famous one was when Google Reader got discontinued. Those of us that loved Google Reader made us very, very sad. Thankfully, Feedly came around, and we were able to use that, many of us, to take the place of Reader. But Google will. They'll just try stuff. They'll, oh, let's develop this product. If it doesn't work, we'll kill it off. And so they do that, and it makes us sad sometimes. But we're also glad that they're focusing on what really does work and putting energy and stuff into that. So what I've done here is basically I listed 5 products, 4 of which actually were Google products that got the axe at some point and went to the graveyard, one of which is not a discontinued product. Let me refresh the page and see if it's starting to pick up. Yep, we got 3 votes so far, it says. So basically you can just come in here and click on which one you think is not a discontinued Google product. Now to look at the results, it looks like if I click where it says 3 votes, it'll flip it around and then it will load the poll results for me, maybe. And if I click on the little down arrow, it'll show me we've got 1 vote for Aardvark, 1 vote for Buzz, and 1 vote for Dodgeball as being not discontinued Google products. And then I can swing it around. And again, I would encourage anybody to come in there and vote. I'll reveal the answer here at the end of our session today in case anybody hasn't had a chance to go in and vote on that. But that can be a fun little tool. So Google has now added polling as a feature inside of Google+. Now it is in Google+, so this isn't something that you'll be able to use outside of Google+, so they could have some limits on its use in your classroom, but for those that are using Google+, a nice new added feature in there. All right, and that brings us to the last update we wanted to talk about, which was Google Classroom getting updates. Google Classroom came out in August, and a lot of folks got really excited about it. Great tool to help with the management of documents as you hand them out to students and as they complete assignments and turn them into you. Well, as much as people got excited about Classroom, there was a lot of people saying, well, what about this? Can it do this? Oh, I'd love it if it could do that. And actually, one of the questions I saw later on down here actually is answered by this. And so we'll end up actually answering one of our questions by the update that came out. So let me show you real quick what is new in Google Classroom. So I've got Google Classroom opened over here. This is just a sample class that I created for the conference when we did the SPARCC conference back in August. And if you're not familiar with Google Classroom, I'm not going to go through all the things that it does. I'm really just going to show you kind of what's different, but I would definitely encourage you to dive in and play around with Classroom. Really powerful tool. If anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to go into more depth on this. But what's new? What new things have they added into here? Well, first of all, it's some minor things, but they're helpful. One is the ability for students to be able to post their own comments to the stream. Now the stream is the first tab in Classroom where you can put a question out there like, hey, what did you think about the protagonist in the chapter of the novel last night, or what do you think is going to happen next, or whatever. And you can put a question out there, so I can pose a question to my students and then they can respond to it. Like, for example, if I scroll down, I think I probably have some examples here somewhere. There's a lot of them here. You can see a lot of people were discussing things. But the point is, you can post a comment and then people can reply to it. Now, by default, students can reply to anything you post, and by default, students can add their own posts. They can start their own question, like, hey, I'm really stuck on this. I don't remember how to solve these quadratic equations. Can somebody give me a push in the right direction? And then other students could respond to them, and that could happen in there. Well, maybe you don't want them to have that ability. So Google did add the option, if you go over to the Students tab, you can now choose what students can and can't do when it comes to posting. So you can leave it that students can post and comment, meaning they can create their own brand new post and they can comment to others. Or you can choose students can only comment, meaning that you're the one that's going to post and they can reply to you, but they can't generate their own. Or you can completely turn that off and say only the teacher can post and comment, meaning that the announcement page is just going to be you putting information out. It's not going to be a two-way conversation between you and your students. So none of these are right or wrong. It's just what makes sense for your classroom. You now have the ability to go in and control that. In addition to allowing the students to post or not, there's also a new option to show deleted items. And here's what I mean by that. You've always had the ability to go in and delete a post from a student. So if I were to come in here and say, aha, I see that conference number 16 user posted this and I don't think it's appropriate, I could always come over here, take my mouse, click it on the little 3 dots on the right, and I could choose delete. I always had the option to do that. That's not new. So I could say I want to delete that post. You sure? Yes. Boom. It's gone. Okay. Give it a second there, and it should disappear. Oh, or unless I have show deleted. Oh, I have show deleted items on. That's why it wasn't disappearing. It will disappear. Poof, it's gone. Well, now they've added this new option on the side here, over here on the left, to show deleted items. So let's say a student posts something really inappropriate. Well, you can't leave it up there for the class to read. So you go in, you take note of who it was, you delete that post, but then later on, it's time for the conference, you bring the kid in and say, listen, that was really inappropriate. You really should not have posted that, and you can come here now and click on show deleted items, and it won't show to the students, it'll just show to you as the teacher. You can bring it up on your screen and say, see, you put a picture of Kermit the Frog on. What were you thinking? And so I could now show that post later on. So that's nice. Probably though, well, let me pop over to students. I'll show you one more, then I'll show you the really important thing. Another thing that they added was when you go to invite students to your course, you can now, instead of just pulling them out of your contacts, you can also pull them out of your groups. So if your school is using Google Groups and you've set up groups for each grade level or class or whatever, you can also invite kids directly from groups rather than just from your contacts. So that was new. But here's the thing that really makes a big change, I think, for folks, and that is when you're creating an assignment and students need to turn in their assignment. The way it used to work is if I were to come in here and create an assignment like this one, I said, please complete this essay. The only way a student could actually complete the assignment would be to submit something. So I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to do a quick assignment. I'm just going to say sample assignment. And I really won't do anything fancy. I'll just say it's a sample assignment, and I'm going to go ahead and assign this. Well, actually, no. Let me do this. Let me assign a quiz, because that's really where this becomes very helpful. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to grab a quiz. I'll just grab that one that we were just looking at a moment ago, the one that we were playing around with. So let me grab that quiz real quick, and I'll just grab the link out of that. Give me just a sec here. So we'll pull this quiz up. And yep, we're running a little slow there. Come on, buddy, you can do it. And let me go ahead and grab the link for it. So I'll come up here and I'll copy. Okay. So when I'm in Google Classroom, if I wanted to, I can add an attachment, a drive item, a YouTube video, or I can add a link. I'm going to paste in the link to my Google form. So I'm giving the kids a quiz, for example, in this case. And so I'll just say, instead of sample assignment, I'll call it sample quiz. So if I go ahead and I assign this, so oops, oh good, it added the link. I was afraid I forgot to hit add. There we go. Now let me go ahead and assign it. If I assign this out to all my students there, let me now pull up my student. So I'm signed in as a student on this other one. Let me pull that up. Here we go. So I'm signed in as a student. If I go in now as a student and I say, oh, hey, here's my assignment, and I open up my assignment, and I go, okay, let me go ahead and take my quiz. So, oops, I had to go back and click the link. Sorry. So here I can come in, I can click the link, and that will open up the actual quiz. I can take the quiz, do whatever. You'll notice that if I say, oh, I want to turn in something, if I go to sample quiz, I can't really turn in a quiz. A Google form can't be, I can't attach it to here. Basically, I go and I take the quiz, I come here, I click on the link, I take the quiz, blah, 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 and I hit submit at the bottom. There's no way for me to now come in here and actually turn that in. And that's what people are having trouble with. They're saying, I'm giving the kids an assignment, but this isn't an assignment that they actually are going to turn something in. Now, normally they can if they want. They can go to add, they can grab something from their drive, they can grab a link, they can upload a file, they can create a document. Well, there's nothing to turn in here. Well, they've added this new button called Mark as Done. So now, if you assign something that there's really nothing for the kid to attach here, they're taking a quiz, they're doing something else, they can now come in and just click Mark as Done, and that will go ahead and indicate that they have completed it. So that does help folks who were asking questions such as, down here we had, when using Google Forms with Google Classroom, it does not show assignments as being completed. And that's right. With Google Forms, you now have the ability, though, to click Mark Complete, and that will let students be able to get that assignment off of their list of things they have to do. So those are all of the new updates to Classroom. And in general, we just want to remind you that Google does put out their own newsletter every month. Here's a link to it in our agenda here. It's a very nice newsletter. Kind of gives you a list of all the things that are new for the month. Because we straddle 2 months, we've got some different things in ours. They do it month by month. We'll always kind of go from the last meeting to this meeting, so we've got some things from the newsletter, but some things that have happened since then as well. All right. Well, let me pause there. Any comments, questions before we move on here, guys?
We used the Mark as Done yesterday. We were teaching learning.com classes, and I have them linked into Google Classroom. And so as they completed activities for us, they were able to mark them as done. And that was just, it was really funny because at first the kids thought they wanted to mark it as done as a comment and not actually go to mark it as done, but it worked out really well.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Right. All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a quick look at some upcoming events that we have. We got that on our list here next. We already mentioned one of them, and that is this weekend, the Chromebook Institute being held at Hoover High School. Several of us will be there. It's Saturday and Sunday, all day long, so hope we can see lots of folks there, learn lots of great Google Apps related things. And then, Brian, I remember you telling me about this, so I'm so glad you added this in there. I shared this around with people here, but if they had missed it, it's important that they hear about this. So, Brian, why don't you tell us a little bit about this upcoming workshop that you guys are hosting at your school?
Sure. Again, it's on Thursday, November 6th. It's a Tablets with Google Play for Education workshop. It's hosted by CDWG and Google for Education. I'm going to go ahead and bring the flyer up here quick, and you can see it.
I'll bring it up on this.
Oh, okay. That's fine. So with that, like I said, the agenda's there, but it's nice because an actual Google representative comes to the session in addition to CDWG, and they have a nice agenda for the day that includes lunch, and there's no charge for attending. Really, Google Play for Education takes the time and really goes over the new Tablets with Google Play for Education program that they have, where they do live demos, show different apps that work well under it. And one of the things I really like too is that during the day they'll also do a hangout with the Google product team, where there'll be a representative from that, where you can have a nice Q&A session to kind of tell them some things you'd like to maybe see, or and any other questions or comments you might have with them. Like I said, I think it's a good event, and if you're wanting to learn more about Google Play for Education, it's a great thing to come check out.
All right, very good, excellent. Let's see. I think that's all I have for events. Before we move on to questions and other things there, anybody else have any upcoming things we need to know about?
That's a school day then.
That is a school day, right? Is that a Thursday? That's a Thursday, right?
Yep, that's a Thursday.
Yeah. I unfortunately will not be able to attend. I did have a previous commitment that day, but if I could, I definitely would be there. That looks like a really great opportunity to learn more about tablets and get some hands-on information and direct from the horse's mouth information, as Google reps will be there. So definitely encourage anybody to take them up on that. It's a great opportunity. All right, well, let's take a look at our Q&A and see what things have come in since we've started here. And please fill this out as we have our meetings. You can fill this in days ahead of time if there's something that you'd like us to talk about at the meeting, as well as the next section down, the show and tell section. This is the Q&A and the show and tell. Unfortunately, there's nothing in there this time. We need to encourage people to please do fill that in, because we'd love to hear from you guys. You know, what's happening in your district? What's a cool thing you're doing? What's a neat way a teacher has been using Google Apps? We would just love to hear from folks as far as the best practices of what's happening out there. It doesn't have to be anything big. It just be, you know, a 2-minute quick little thing. Hey, here's a fun thing we did. You might want to share things. You could throw a link in there to show the product that came out of whatever it was. Or if there's just a really neat web app you came across, say, oh, this is so cool, I found this new extension or this new web app, I've been using it, and it's really, really neat. So don't put any pressure on yourself. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but we would love to hear from districts. So in the future, this will always be in here, the show and tell section, and we'd love to get more people to fill out stuff in there about what they're doing in their district. The Q&A section, though, I think we addressed the first one, which was about Google Forms not being able to mark as completed. Well, now you can. There's the ability to mark it as done. The second one, though, let's chat about this one real quick, because I did see this earlier today, and I want to make sure that people feel comfortable with how this works. The question goes, we were testing out the suggestion feature in editing with Google Classroom. Now, I'll explain that if you haven't used suggesting before. I'll explain what that is. It would be wonderful if the suggestion was shown for the student in a different color or font. Right now, it just blends into the rest of the document in the student's view unless you change it manually yourself. Now, I might be misunderstanding the question, but I'm going to answer it as best as what I think is the answer, and that is, actually, I think the suggestion feature works the way that you're wanting it to. I'm afraid that the student or the teacher may not be using it correctly. So let me explain real quick what I'm talking about here. When you share a document with anybody, if I come up here to my share button, and I put, you know, somebody's name in here to share with, we're all familiar with the fact rights, comment rights, or edit rights. So when you are using Google Classroom, it's using these same rights. So if I were to assign a worksheet to a student through Google Classroom, it would create the document, give it to the student. The student would be the owner of the document, which gives them edit rights. I, as the teacher, would have access to it, but I would have comment rights until the student turns it in. Now, once the student submits it to me, I then become the owner, and I get edit rights, and the student actually drops all the way down to view only. They get view rights. They can just see their document. And then when I turn it back to them, it reverses, and they get edit rights again. So if you're using Classroom, it is still using these same sharing permissions. It's just doing that for you. Well, here's the idea. If I were to have this document shared to me and I wanted to leave feedback, and that's what the question is talking about, what we're calling the suggestion feature. When you have the ability to do commenting, so I'll just do this right here below. So here is, whoops, I'll type in here. Here is an example of how should I explain this? Here's an example of text with edit rights. Whoops, if I could type, that would help, with edit rights. And then below there I'll say, here is an example of text with commenting rights, which is the same as suggestions. All right, so at the moment, I've got full edit rights, so I technically have total access to this document. I got full edit rights. Actually, you guys do too. We've made this document so anybody can type in it and work with it. But notice up here in the top right-hand corner. In the very top right-hand corner, there's an icon that shows you what mode you're in. So at the moment, it shows a pencil. If I click on there, that means I'm in editing mode. So at the moment, anything I type, I'm actually really making the difference. So this is a test written in edit mode. Okay. Now, if I click below here, though, and I come up here and I click on the pencil and I switch myself down to suggesting mode, if I choose that and now I type, this is an example or this is, I'll say this is a test written in comment or suggestion mode. Okay, now, because I switched to suggestion mode there, it's actually highlighting this, and over here on the side, it's popping up this comment saying that Eric Curts is suggesting that we add this to the document, okay? Now, if I switch back to just regular edit mode and click off of there, you'll see it does change the color. Because I wrote this while in suggestion mode, when I click off of it, it is colored a different color. When I type in edit mode, it's whatever color I have chosen just from my regular toolbar up here. So the comment was they're testing out the suggestion feature. They would love it if it would show a different font or color. They're saying right now it just blends in. My concern is the person who's doing the typing actually has full edit mode rights and isn't downgrading themselves to suggesting. They're actually typing when in edit mode, which is causing it to come in black. If instead they say, oh, I'm going to switch down to suggesting mode, and they start typing when in suggesting mode, that's when it will automatically change the color for you. Now, how can you tell another way? How can you tell it's suggesting mode? If I downgrade all the way to viewing mode, the suggestions disappear. So if I take myself all the way down to viewing, it won't even show that suggestion. It's gone. It's not even there. If I upgrade to suggestion mode, suggestions show up. If I go all the way to edit mode, now, of course, I can make all kinds of changes. So that's my gut feeling. My gut feeling is we might be in a situation where the person doing this might not have realized they were actually in edit mode, not suggestion mode. Now, I'm going to pause there. Does somebody else have something to add to that? Might I be misreading that? I'm not sure. Anybody have any comments? Hopefully, hopefully that's right. I mean, that was my read on it, was that I believe that's what was happening there. Okay? All right. All right. Next question down. We are using iPads and need a way to have students be able to listen to the questions while taking a quiz on the iPad. All right. I don't think I'm going to be the right person to answer this one. I don't have an iPad. I do have an Android tablet, but I haven't even tried that on there. I do know that on a regular, so if you've got an idea about this, be thinking, because I'm going to throw this out to everybody here in a second. I know that when you're on the Chrome browser in general, you can use an extension like Speak It, so that can read, a quiz question to you. So like if I open up my sample quiz over here and I go to view the live form, and if I were to come in here and if I were to highlight some text, right-click on it and choose Speak It.
Answer the quiz questions below as best as you can.
It'll go ahead and read that aloud. And yes, as always, I've chosen a British female voice, but that's my prerogative. I'm allowed to. You can choose whatever voice you want. Speak It lets you do that. So that works great on your desktop. I don't know. Does anybody have some feedback on that for iPads to make text-to-speech on an iPad? Anybody? If not, this will be we'll look it up. I mean, that's why these questions are great. We'll research this between now and then, and we'll send you an email and let you know what we find out, and we'll follow up next session.
I know there's some things for iPad. I can't say I've personally tried a lot of them, but the limitation on a tablet, especially like iPad, is that it's only one application running at a time. So even though there's some reader applications, you literally have to copy the text from like your browser, go into that application and paste it. Because one, for instance, like if you're doing it on a tablet, like an iPad, they do have an app called Web Reader HD. I've not personally tried it, so I can't say if it's great or not. But that is one option to maybe look at. I think it's a couple $2 for the app. But again, no matter what type of app you get, that's the limitations right now on that front, is that the single app at a time. Now, if they can get some multitasking going, we might be able to see some better apps in the future. But no matter what on the tablet, you're going to have to do a copy and paste, which may or may not be difficult for that student depending on their situation.
Eric, I'm wondering if there is an accessibility option on the iPad. I've never used one myself, but I wonder if there's any kind of accessibility tool that you can turn on.
I believe there is.
Yeah, I think that's a really good suggestion, Anthony. I know the iPad is very well oriented toward accessibility. I know the Android tablet is as well. Both of them are. But because I know I've done presentations on the Android tablet, but I've seen a presentation done on the iPad where they went into all the accessibility features, and they do a phenomenal job of addressing different accessibility needs. So that could be another option to pursue. Is there something in the accessibility settings that would allow people just to click on the text and have it read aloud? Again, I apologize. I'm not an iOS guy. I've got one at home. I got an iPad at home, but I really don't use it. I'm pretty much just use my Android device, so I'm not going to be a lot of help on this one. But we'll do that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll have my 3-year-old grandson investigate that on the iPad. I just want to mention, for those of you that are fairly new to the Chromebook, it has a great accessibility tool built in, so you can have text-to-speech available on a variety of different things without installing any applications. It's there to begin with.
Yes, that is right. Yeah, the Chromebook does have built-in accessibility tools as well.
Which actually, not to interrupt, but I actually did some quick searching. It looks like on the iPad, there is an accessibility feature called Speak Screen that you can enable, which will actually speak what's on their screen on the iPad. Which actually, it looks like to enable it and disable it when you have it active is swiping down with 2 fingers from top to bottom. So looks like if you do right on Apple's website, like if you do a search for Apple accessibility, they have a whole page that has all that answers there. Which actually I could probably just copy that link real quick and put it in the Google Docs so you can see it here real quick.
That'd be perfect. Thank you very much. All right, good stuff. Well, that will wrap up the Q&A part, although I want to throw this out to anybody else who might have something that you'd like to mention with questions and answers. Anybody here at SPARCC, up at Ravenna, anybody online, something you got a question about that's been on your mind with Google Apps? If not, that's okay, but we want to make sure we give everybody the opportunity. It does look like we've got some show and tell stuff here, so we might have something that we can chat about here in just a moment. But before we do that, any questions from anybody? All right. Well, be thinking about that. We'll give one last call out for that after we go through our show and tell section and after I reveal the answer to our poll about the Google Graveyard. We'll do that still as well. So we'll transition over to show and tell, and I'm pretty sure this is Anthony here because I'm recognizing the things that are showing up in there. So Anthony, I'm going to turn this over to you. I think you wanted to show some stuff.
Yeah, the reason why I those 2 things there is, first of all, I love Sheets, by the way, which Eric already told you, but besides that, they've added a feature now in Sheets that when you share a sheet, the auto-filtering capability remains in the shared sheet, which was not something you could do before unless you had editing rights. So the spreadsheet I've shared is an example of using a spreadsheet to filter characters based on characteristics, and it's built on Romeo and Juliet. You could use it for any book, any subject area. It's just an example of how you can use multi-filtering to narrow down onto a specific category.
I'm going to pull that up here, and I'll do a screen share so that everybody can see that. So what Anthony is mentioning here is he's got the spreadsheet with characters from Romeo and Juliet. Then if I were to come in here, and I'll just make a copy of this so I don't mess up Anthony's. What he's saying is that you've got these drop downs here at the top. Anthony's got filtering turned on, and it allows you to decide what you want to show in each column. So, for example, if we wanted to come in and say, okay, let's see whether they live or die, let's just show the people that die in the story. I could uncheck lives, and now it'll filter it down to just the people that die. And I could go to the family and say, let's just show those that are Montagues, and it could filter down to there. And so I could see, okay, Lady Montague and Romeo are the two Montagues that die throughout the story. And as Anthony mentioned, this can be done with all sorts of things. What are some examples, Anthony, of different topics people or content people might throw into a filtering situation like this?
Well, one thing you can do is use it in science in place of a diachromatic key, where you have a branching key in normal cases. But this would be, for example, let's say you put different types of leaves, bark, other characteristics of trees across the top, and then down the left side list different trees. And that way you'd be able to look at a leaf, determine what category it fell under, filter down to that group. Look at some bark, filter down to that group. You can do a bacteria. I mean, you can do it with any type of classification system out there. And it's a really good tool to get your students used to the idea of this whole idea of filtering as a concept as they go into next generation assessments.
Now, Anthony, I know you've said this before, so I'm stealing your thunder here, but you've also mentioned it's a great thing for students to build as they go. You could give them a spreadsheet that's not already pre-populated, but just has some categories and say, while you're reading the book, fill this in. While you're doing the study, while you're collecting leaves, like you said, fill this in. And so they could, as a group, collaboratively build this spreadsheet with all this information, then turn around and use the spreadsheet to answer questions.
Absolutely. And the other thing, in addition to adding additional characters, they can keep adding additional characteristics of a new column. So you should be building extra rows and columns as the story progresses or as the scientific investigation continues.
All right. And you had a second thing you wanted to share.
Well, it's just one of my favorite new apps. It's one of those light apps in the fact that it simply takes you to the website of the tool. But I find it to be a very quick, easy tool to use, and that's LunaPick.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and share that so that we can have that up there for everybody to see. So here's LunaPick in the Chrome Web Store. For those that aren't familiar with the Chrome Web Store, this is another way that you can access Chrome Web Apps. What Brian was showing you earlier through the Google Play Store gets access to Chrome Web Apps. This is the full Chrome Web Store, so it's going to have web apps beyond just those that are educational. It'll have games, it'll have lots of different things like that. But this includes, for example, LunaPick. So I can come in here and say I want to add this by clicking the plus free button, and it will go ahead and add LunaPick as a, in this case, I think, is this the extension or the app that I just added in?
I guess they've added an extension. They only had an app before, but now they have an extension also, which is great.
So that's added a LunaPick extension for me there. And tell us a little bit about what LunaPick does.
You know, I think you have to go to the app. I think it was an app that got installed. So
okay.
It lets you do all sorts of photo editing. I use it a lot to go in, and it's very good at removing backgrounds to make transparent backgrounds if you want to slide things over top of other things. So if you can do other types of editing also, but it's got two ways to use your files. You can either upload a file or simply put in the URL of the image that you want to edit, and it'll work that way also.
All right. And sometime, maybe we just want to, spend a session digging into Chrome Web Apps and extensions and things like that. That could be one of our sessions here, or maybe we just, share a favorite one each time. You could pick one, I could pick one. Different people could, maybe pick a favorite app or extension. So that's excellent. All right. Anything else you wanted to add there, Anthony?
No other show and tell.
Okay. I did see another question. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to mention those of you that are members of SPARCC that Eric and I are available to come out and do Google training and a variety of other trainings. I've been working with a district this week, and they mentioned that they didn't really know we were available, so I thought we should remind people.
Yeah, that is true for districts that belong to the SPARCC consortium. Anthony and I are part of the package. You get us. So, if you've got a need, whether it be a specific topic whether it be a day that you have as a waiver day, whether it be an after-school session, whether you just want to have us available in the lab so that teachers can come down during their free period and get some help. We're very flexible and very excited to work with the districts we support by providing training that meets your needs. So you can certainly get in touch with Anthony or myself, and we can chat with you about some possibilities there. So that's a good thing to remind our SPARCC districts of. I did see a question popped up asking about anybody using Chrome box. A Chrome box. I see that question came up. I have played around with it, but I'm going to throw this open to the whole group to see if anybody else has anything to mention. I do a training session on Google Tools for Special Needs, and so when I was doing that training, this is one of the tools I looked at. I did not, it's included in there, but I really don't go into detail on Chromevox in my presentation, but I have played around with it. It's basically a screen reader tool for Chrome. And so what it will do is read to you what's on the page. And so really it's something that is for a person who would need the entire page read to them, including the navigation options, things like that. It's going to be different than something like Speak It. With Speak It, I'm going to explicitly highlight the text I want on the page, right-click on it, and tell it to speak that. Whereas the Chromebox acts as a screen reader. If I go to a new page, it will begin reading the page to me automatically. That's my understanding. If I'm wrong, I apologize. Maybe somebody else can clarify that. But my understanding of Chromebox is it's more for somebody who would need that constant audio feedback rather than selectively choosing to have something read to them. Anybody else have feedback on Chromebox?
Just make sure the student's wearing a set of headphones when they have it on.
Yeah, and it might be worth mentioning. Let me show you real quick here. I know this is a little off topic, but let me show you. Well, not too terribly far off. But when it comes to accessibility and things like that with a Chromebook, let me open up our admin panel real quick. One thing I've noticed is that you can turn on accessibility features like that for a Chromebook. You can say, okay, I want to have text-to-speech turned on. I want to have, whatever turned on. And that's great. That's fantastic. That's a really nice tool for students. But what I've noticed sometimes is it doesn't get turned off. And then the next student sits down at the Chromebook and they go to boot it up, and suddenly it starts talking to them, and it's reading everything aloud and whatever. There is an option if you go into your device management in the admin panel, and you go to Chrome, and we go into the user settings. There's an accessibility section in there. Now, I hope I've gone the right direction. Now, there's so much stuff in here. Hope I picked the right place. Let me see. Did I? Accessibility. Actually, it might have been under devices, not users. I bet it was devices, because that would be device-specific, not user-specific. Yay! I'm right on the second try. Okay, so if you go to device management and you go to Chrome and you go to device settings, I'm sorry, I apologize, device settings. At the very bottom of your device settings, there's the option for accessibility control, and the option is to turn off accessibility settings on the sign-in screen upon logout. And so basically, if somebody were to turn on some of these accessibility settings like text-to-speech, it would work perfectly for them, but when they log out with a shared Chromebook, it would no longer have that turned on for the next student as they go to log in. So that's an option you can check and turn that on or off in there, which could help to cut down on some confusion if a student turned it on just to be silly, and then the next student ends up getting everything spoken when they go to log in. So just be aware of that when it comes to accessibility. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and give the answer to the poll. So let's go ahead and let me pull that guy back up here now. Maybe we should try to do a poll every time. That should be our challenge. Come up with a trivia question or something for each of our meetings. So again, we're up to 6 votes. All right, very good. So here is the poll. Again, it was which of these items is not a product that's been discontinued. It looks like We've got 2 people saying aardvark, 1 saying buzz, 1 saying dodgeball, 2 saying field trip, and nobody's saying wave. So what are these? Well, first, credit where credit is due. This is pulled from a website, and I'll throw the link now that we know the answer. Well, now you will know the answer very shortly. I'll take this and copy, and I'll paste that into the shared agenda so you can get to it. This is an article that's talking about all of these different services that have gone to the Google Graveyard, including things like Google Reader and iGoogle, Google Talk, Google Health, Knoll, Picnic, Buzz, Aardvark. So if you didn't know, Aardvark and Buzz, the first 2 options, those are in fact Google services that were sent to the graveyard. Buzz was Google's first attempt at trying to do sort of like a Twitter, social media sort of thing, and oh my gosh, we don't need to go into it, but it just had a terrible launch. I think it was a good product, people liked it, but they made the choice when they launched it to have it integrated into Gmail. Crazy. People were like, what is this doing in my Gmail? And it just put such a bad taste in people's mouths that they never gave it a chance to really try it out, and so Buzz went to an early grave. Aardvark, I had never used that, a social search service with Q&A sessions over live chat. So, all right, that one. We got SideWiki, Notebook, Dictionary, Labs, Wave. I think I had Wave on there. Yes, Wave. Wave was sort of like Gmail, email mixed with chat, mixed with wiki, mixed with social. People that have used it have said it was a phenomenal tool, very, very powerful, but again, it just never really found the right setting. The good thing to say, though, is it's not like Wave just went away. It got shut down, and all the technology from it got pulled out and put into other Google products. So we benefit from a lot of the collaboration in Google Docs because of Wave and other things like that. SearchWiki, Dodgeball, that was another one. Dodgeball was the predecessor to Foursquare. When you think of things like Foursquare and what's the other one where you sign in your location stuff? I can't remember it now. Foursquare is the big one. Oh, shoot. Can't remember the other one now. But Dodgeball was that sort of thing. So anywhere you'd go, you'd say, well, I know Facebook does this now too, but Foursquare was a really big one. Well, Dodgeball was the predecessor of that, and Google had it, and they ended up killing it off. It was something where you could go and say, oh, I'm checking in at this place or that place. So which one of these is not a discontinued product? Field Trip. Field Trip is actually a real product, and it is still around. Field Trip is an app for your mobile device. So for iOS or Android, if you install Field Trip and you turn it on, anywhere you go, it'll pop up and tell you interesting information about the place you're at. So if you were to be taking students to a field trip, if you're going to Washington, D.C. or something like that, and you had the Field Trip app installed and turned on while you're walking around, boop, 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 things would pop up on there to let you know information about the landmarks that you're at, and interesting like that. So Field Trip is alive and well for now, at least. So it has not gone to the Google graveyard. So there we go. All right. Well, last call here. Any other comments? We'll give everybody a chance to speak. If anybody has anything else they'd like to share, I'll start with location here at SPARCC. Anybody here? Comments, questions, anything to share? All right. Anthony, up at Ravenna, you and Maureen, any questions or comments or anything to mention up there?
Well, I threw one more thing on the show and tell, and that's the guide to trackpad and keyboard shortcuts for the Chromebook. And actually, I've listed the only really important one, because if you do that, it brings them all up on the screen for you.
Okay, so if anybody is looking in the agenda, Anthony has added to the bottom there a help guide about keyboard, trackpad, shortcuts for the Chromebook, and he says the most important one is Control-Alt ? Because when you press that, boom, it brings them all up on the screen for you on a Chromebook, so you can see what those shortcuts are. But that's a very helpful guide Anthony has linked in there under the Show and Tell section. So if you're using Chromebooks, I would definitely encourage you to go to the agenda and give a click on that document as well.
Maureen?
I'm good.
Brian, thanks for joining us tonight, man. You've been a fount of knowledge. Anything you would like to share as you wrap up?
No problem. Just thanks for having me here tonight.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we are wrapping up a little bit early. We kind of set ourselves 2 hours that we could use for this. We're still figuring it out, so in the future we'll let everybody know if we're going to go back to doing this during the daytime, if we're going to stick with an evening one, if we're going to do a back and forth sort of thing. I'm not sure, but we'd love to hear your feedback. So keep letting us know, and we look forward to November. We'll let folks know as soon as we can what the date and time for that one will be. And other than that, thanks everybody so much for joining. Anthony, you've got something to mention real quick?
One quick thing, if you don't pick a time, Eric will pick third shift because he's up at 2:30 in the morning editing documents, so we'll have to all get up and do this.
Yeah, I'm a night owl. All right. Well, again, thanks everybody so very much, and have a great month between now and the next time we chat. Take care, everybody.
Take care.